is up, grappling fans? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rap Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of Grappling Hour. I was going to say Verbal Tap. We just recorded that, so I don't want to give too much away, but we've got Sam from South Podcast coming back on. We go over some UFC 256 results, but that is not what you're here for. Today, you're here to see a certain guest who had a pretty good showing over at the Submission Only series. We'll get to him in just a minute. But first and foremost, let's get some love to our sponsors. First, if you want to get some new gear this Christmas, I highly encourage you go over to nogibjjgear.com. Use the promotional code GrapplingHour15 to save 15% off of whatever you put in your cart. And I gotta tell you, they got some really good stuff. You can get like a panda hitting somebody with a folding chair. That might become very useful given our guests today. You can also get the Corona Weight Champion hashtag rash guard that we may have had a hand in creating. All those things and much, much more. Also, give some love to our friends over at Dodgy Collective. And also, Manscaped. Yes, they are a sponsor of Verbal Tap. Use the promotional code Verbal Tap to take 20% off of what you put in that cart. And as Kevin says, you definitely want to use the little thing, the ball cream that you put on your balls. I don't really know. I haven't used it yet, but they gave us a trimmer, and we will have a full report on that a little bit later. Again, Verbal Tap on that one, manscaped.com. All right, our guest today. Usually not a guest I enjoy. The hard part is, don't laugh. They can hear you right now. The hard part is that when I am commentating an event, I'm not rooting against him. But I also know that I made an offer to Mike Wilson for the Submission Only series that I will interview whoever wins. To my great, great demise, none other than previous guest of the show and all-around okay guy, Luis Quinones, ended up taking home the prize. And yes, you could see that over on the Submission Only series page. It just premiered this Friday, straight off of that win. I guess we're excited to bring back onto the show one, Luis Quinones. Luis, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, try not to laugh. I mean, you had me going at the ball cream earlier, so.
Bro, listen, dude, when they send you some shit, all you have to do is know, like, listen, this is the box that they send us from Manscaped. That's how you know we're super official. And I gotta tell you, man, Kevin was telling me, he just goes, Raph, can I ask? And I said, what is it? He goes, what do I do with the ball cream? And I go, Kev, there's some things that I'm not equipped to talk about with you outside of the podcast regimen, and I just don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't really know how to respond to that, but it's, I think it's great to be back on here, but I always try to reserve these things for the very end. So we'll just keep it at that. I'll let you know how I feel by the end of this torture.
Choice. I'm curious as to what you are doing in a factory right now. Has someone kidnapped you? Do you need help?
No, I'm actually at a friend's wood shop. I figured doing some stuff on a Sunday, recovering a little bit. So yeah, why not do this interview in a wood shop?
I mean, it kind of gives a good dimension to you, but are you a woodworker? Is that something that you do in your off time?
No, I'm not at all, actually. I'm more on the software side. I had some pieces that I wanted to get fabricated, so
okay. Well,
just here for literally just for moral support.
Well, I don't know that anybody who's watching this knows what I got to see while we're off camera here, but do you mind sharing what it is that you are doing in addition to being interviewed right now?
Having a glass of wine.
So, okay, at what point did you say, I'm going to get interviewed by Raph? You know what will make it even better? Bringing a glass of wine onto the interview right now.
I don't know. At some point I was like, how much pain am I going to have to deal with for this next 30 to 45 minutes? So I was like, why not just kind of numb myself through it?
I mean, listen, dude, not many guests come on here and bring wine. We have a fight companion where people are encouraged and very, very much told that they need to drink on air. However, nobody has shown up with wine yet. So I have to ask, what wine
Classy
are you...
guy.
I don't know about that, but what wine are you drinking?
I mean, it's literally just a half of a glass of, I think it's Merlot. So I'm not exactly even sure.
Are you a wine person? Do you drink wine regularly? Is that something that
No,
I
I
didn't
don't
know about
actually.
you?
I don't drink at all regularly. So it's more of a Sunday. It's cold and I'm in a wood shop. I was like, you know what? What goes well with that? Something like red wine, warm. Keeps. I'm wearing like 2 jackets. So, yeah.
I want to make sure that people know, even though there's a factory backdrop here, he is in Los Angeles. So when he is talking about being cold, it's not at all remotely in what most people would
It's
call in the
freezing.
Midwest a
I grew
freezing
up in a
element.
tropical island, dude. This is freezing.
First of all, what tropical island did you grow up in?
I'm Puerto Rican, so you knew that.
I do know that, but the audience doesn't.
Yeah.
So when you just say like
Oh
I
yeah.
grew up on an island, they're just thinking
Yeah,
like,
I grew
what?
up
Did
in
this
Puerto Rico.
immigrant come here from Cuba? Where is he from?
Yeah, I grew up in Puerto Rico, so it's about 85 and 100% humidity all year around.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I did
So
spend a long time in the East Coast though, so I should be fairly numb to the cold, to the real cold actually.
when you say that you spent a lot of time in the East Coast, whereabouts were you spending a lot of time out?
So in Delaware and Pennsylvania for probably like 13 years or so, 13, 14 years.
What was bringing you out there? Was that where you were growing up? Like, what was
Yeah,
the
so
reason for
my
being out
my
there?
dad's work got us transferred there when I was younger, and then ended up, I kind of spent high school and then college in Pennsylvania, and then from there I ended up moving to New Orleans and was there for about 5 years before I came to LA. And I've been here about almost 11 years now, so yeah, I'm a
Wow.
little bit older than I look, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, most people don't know that about you. You do
yeah,
look a little bit younger than I guess
yeah,
most people would assume you are. I just
yeah.
know you're old because you explain things in a way when you talk about your injuries where you're like, "Oh God, this hurts," and I go, "Yeah, no, that's definitely
I mean,
not born after
years of
2000."
wrestling and years of racing motorcycles definitely didn't help.
I
So
mean, yeah, the
yeah,
best thing that you could have done after years of wrestling and motorcycles was say, you know, it sounds like a great next act, jujitsu.
of course. Why not? I mean, I like that when people say you only get one body, right? It's like treat. I mean, you get one, so just ride it till the wheels fall off, right? Just until there's nothing left of it. That's kind of I think that's the idea anyway. I say that now until I can't walk probably,
Yeah, I was about to
but
say, there's going to be a great encore by the time you turn 45 and you go, guess what, everybody? Going back to motorcycles.
wait. By the time I turn what?
45?
Oh, 45. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, did you hear 35 and you thought like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a little close to home, Raph? Come on, man.
Yeah.
I would tell you this though, it is remarkable to see that even though Father Time is not on your side, that you still compete at a high level. So I guess I should start by asking, since we are covering the event, how did you get involved with the submission only series?
Um, yeah. So Mike had hit me up, maybe like fairly close to the event, whether I wanted to jump on in the bracket, and I wasn't really sure. Kind of, I mean, I was like, clearly, no, there had not really been too many competitions because of COVID, and training was like a little bit weird. So it was at 145, which is what I like to compete at. So I was like, sure. I think like a couple of days before the event, I was like, yeah, I'll hop on. And for me, it was like, okay, well, time to shake the rust off. It's been like 8 months. So, I mean, I guess not 8 months because I did jujitsu OT, but again, like I equate jujitsu OT to being more like a slam dunk contest. That was just more like a fun show where you try these two positions and try to escape or submit. But yeah, back before that, my last competition was in March, which was actually that was crazy because that was the last. That was the combat jiu-jitsu at the Orpheum, and that was the last event. Like literally, I think lockdown started that next week, so it had been quite a while. So it felt good to go back out there and kind of get the blood flowing again in competition mode.
I definitely know that for me personally as a hobbyist, not having jiu-jitsu does certain things to my brain, but I do know for competitors it does register a different way. I'm going to ask you about that, but
Sure.
I will vouch for you in saying I was covering that last combat jiu-jitsu in March
Yeah.
event, and all I could think of was, are we all going to get shut down? Because you hear the rumors, in the back of your mind, like all of us are sitting there going like, let's just get away with this. Nobody talk
Yeah.
about it. Let's photograph here. And then even as people were coming up and shaking hands, that's the beginning of like, boom,
Yeah. I mean, it was literally
pose.
that week, remember? Like we were all like, shit, is this going to go down? And, you know, like Hideo Tokoro was coming in from Japan and a couple people were coming in internationals. We were like, shit, is this like, are we going to make it through this week? And then, you know, it was a great event. I mean, that event was awesome. But I mean, I'm thankful that it happened. That was a shitload of training for everybody, I'm sure. And the Orpheum's my favorite. That was my favorite venue. So I'm glad that happened. But that was scary because, you know, nobody really knew what was going on. Like all the sort of paranoia of everything was like starting to boil. And then obviously we know where we're at now. But yeah, I'm glad that went down.
And I'm glad that you got to compete. I get a little fuzzy on the details. Was that your second combat jiu-jitsu match, or was that your debut in the combat match?
No, that was my first match. That was my debut. So, you know, it was always one of those weird things where, I don't know, like training with the strikes, you know, was different, you know, but like, I mean, I don't know, the slaps don't really hurt. But when somebody who knows how to like literally hit you with, you know, the palm, somebody hits you for real, I mean, yeah, that kind of sucks. So, you know, that there's always that like little bit of doubt. You know, like, I mean, I've competed for so long in different sports that for me, the nerves aren't really like a huge thing. But with combat jiu-jitsu, it was like, it's the first time in a long time that I was like, oh shit, like there's like a new element here where you're like, oh, like, damn, you know, like I never did MMA, so I never did any of those things. So for me, it was like, fuck, I don't want to be the first dude to get knocked out in, you know, UFC Fight Pass or some shit. So I was like extra incentive to like really kind of get after it and make sure your jiu-jitsu is like polished up and get in and out as soon as possible. So yeah.
Who was the person that talked you into doing it?
I want to say it was Eddie. I think it was Eddie. I mean, he was just kind of like, would you think about doing it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll try I was like, I'll try anything once to see if if it's like something I'm interested in doing it. And of course I did it. And now like, I'm super into it. So definitely we'll continue to look to, you know, get on future cards at 145 for sure.
I'm pretty sure he'll find excuses to put you back on. So I wouldn't worry about having to tell him, especially after your performance. I mean, you look good there. And
yeah,
again,
pretty good.
Not something I wanted to happen for you. And you know, I was covering that one, so I was photographing it. And I remembered thinking to myself when I was looking into my viewfinder, I go, damn, these are good photos. He should never have them. Because all I could think of was, I was like, he doesn't deserve any of these photos. Like, the last thing I want to be held accountable for is having a photo that you
taking a good photo.
Like, I like this. This is awesome. Look how good I look here. And I was like, fuck that. Delete.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less of you. So,
but I know that you mentioned everything's a little bit different when people are palm striking you. But can you speak about the power of when you start palm striking somebody else? Because
yeah, it feels good.
I've been told that is the secret sauce to why people love combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. I don't know. I mean, yeah, again, I never really got into MMA. I mean, I still won't ever get into MMA. It's fine. But I don't know. It's I think it's adds a new layer, right? It adds a new element of something that, to me at least, was a little bit more foreign before, and kind of having the opportunity to try something new is always exciting. You know, like I'm always looking to experiment with something or try, you know, a different rule set, a different format, whatever. I mean, I don't care. I'm always game for something. So, you know, that's kind of what made it exciting. I was like, oh, I got some new thing to, you know, to work on. And plus those shows are exciting as hell. You know what I mean? Like look at the last event. I mean, that was awesome. So, those shows just keep getting better and better. And so, yeah, why wouldn't I want to continue trying it?
And you mentioned something. I thought that was the return back over to the Orpheum, which for a while we weren't really using. And I know you mentioned that felt cool, but there's something about, I know for an athlete, when they've done them at other venues, to go back to where EBI really blew up.
Exactly.
To be on that same stage as well.
Yeah, exactly. The first EBI I went to was at the Orpheum. So, you know, what was it, like maybe 4 years later, 5 years later? I don't remember exactly, but to be on a card at that same venue was really cool. And I live very close to the Orpheum, so that was even more like I mean, I live like, you know, a couple blocks from the Orpheum, so that's like it felt even more home field, home turf kind of. You get to be in your couch on your bed, whatever, you know, and then just walk over. There's certainly something to it, and the venue, I don't know, is something so the contrast between how beautiful and kind of artistic the Orpheum is, and it's, you know, inside versus, you know, the contrast like a combat sport. That's also really cool. Like, you don't see that often.
This is such a nerdy, artistic, like, oh, there's something about home and being able to compete there. I'm gonna write a poem about it. Actually,
Oh,
I'm gonna
right.
explain how I really went all the way through it. I mean, like I mentioned, man, you did great in that performance. You obviously had something there. We'll get to the middle part because I do want to revisit that. But let's go back to submission only series, which is
Yeah,
that you end up getting told, okay, a couple days before. Obviously, there was a big break in terms of regular competition. But
hmm,
then when this happens, it's an 8-man tournament. So, what was going through your thought process on that day of
sure.
competition?
I mean, the same. I mean, a lot of that stuff is just kind of on autopilot, right? So, it was basically like, you know, go make the weight, hydrate a little bit, and it was absolutely freezing. So, the number one priority became get warm, as like, you know, physically warm as soon as possible. I think it was only like maybe a little less than 2 hours after weigh-in. So, um, yeah, it was mainly like just go have fun, try some new stuff that you're working on, and, you know, whatever happens is good. I mean, as long as you're happy with your performance, that's kind of all, and you're having fun, you know. But I think at the end of the day, most people were just really happy to be able to be out there and be competing, you know, in the current landscape that we're in. So, um, was grateful to just be out there and be doing what we like to do. I'm sure a lot of the guys felt the same way.
Yeah, you kind of got that vibe looking around that sort of environment. I would ask this though: when did you discover that I would be commentating it? Because I think that you know what kind of things I'm going to say when I am behind
That
the
I
microphone.
saw you that morning, right?
Mhm.
When you got there, that's the first. I think that was the first I knew of it because I saw you and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, here we go. I mean, I just knew. I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, I'm sure the commentating is going to be great, except for when I'm competing. Then it's probably going to be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's something great when I know that it's you because so I try to be very good about taking notes about the competitors I know about. And I don't know that people know this, but when you do commentary, they don't give you a lot of notes. No one hands
Sure.
you research and says, Raf, here you go. This is their life story. They filled out a survey. They've given us all of their notes. It's usually me sitting down and going, let's Instagram stalk them for about a week and see what they come up with. And let's see if they're
Yeah.
idiots. Let's see what they're good at. Let's see what they're not good at. So sometimes it's just making some assumptions and kind of shooting shit at the wall. You, I did
Yeah.
not do any research on. I was just like, is dumb, hair is stupid. Often we'll try to make a joke and forget punchline midway through telling it. So to me, I said, well, at least that's easy. I don't have to worry too much about you.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. That sounds fantastic.
Let's do this. Why don't you walk me through your first match? So you had 3 matches that day, the
Yeah.
first of which started off in kind of an epic fashion.
Yeah. The first match. I mean, I felt my warm up was good, so I was just ready to go. You know, I wanted to just get in and out, so ended up in a wrestling exchange. Got a takedown, got to the back, and then, you know, once I got to the back, I'm super confident there. So, um, I just figured it was just a matter of time. I caught a nasty stinger though, which was not fantastic. Kind of shot down my arm from that takedown. So I was like, keep an eye on that for a minute. But other than that, yeah, it was fairly quick. Um, yeah, that was the plan anyway. Just get in and out.
And so, what exactly did you finish with in that very first round?
It was an RNC. Yeah, first round. I think like 2 minutes in or something.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part about it is, and I try to tell people, you can't just start by talking trash about the person. You have to kind of build a story. And so when you don't give me enough time to really build the story, it's just like, well, he finished him here. And also, he's a dipshit, and we're going on to the
Right.
next match. So there's a little finesse that you want to do on
Yeah.
my side of it, and when you end up getting the finish, I go, well, I guess we're gonna move on. I'll save my jokes.
I guess
for round
I'll
number
wait till next round to talk more shit.
Now, here's the other interesting thing that I don't know that people know, which is this was recorded and then released a few days later. So as a result of that, there was an element of in between you competing. You did come up to me and say, I hope that you are talking good trash at me and that it sounds good. I look forward to hearing it. So were you starting to get a little bit worried because you couldn't get direct release? You couldn't find out immediately what I was saying about you?
No, I always expect the absolute worst from you. So, there's, it can only be better than what I expect. Okay. So I wasn't too concerned.
Well, I'll let you know, I've been lowering the bar for everything that I do since day one, so it's really not too much of a surprise. I always tell people, lower the bar as low as possible and then just barely climb over that.
Keep it substantially low and you'll never be disappointed.
Lower the expectations and then people will go. Because the other thing is, I tell people, I go, who does what I do? Like, at a certain point, if I'm not winning this race just by default, then you know what? It really is my fault.
Right. Most things are your own fault.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I like to think it's mostly luck and bad circumstances that are most anything that happens bad to me. But I would tell you this, Luis, your second match, though, it drew some interest.
Sure. Yeah, it did. It more than I expected.
Did you really think that? Because
I don't know.
As somebody who, we joke off air a lot about pro wrestling elements finding their way into jiu-jitsu. That's all that we do. And, we haven't done one of those things yet. But one of the things I really appreciate about you is, as somebody who actually did wrestling, you have an appreciation for pro wrestling. That doesn't happen with everybody.
Of course.
So for you to finish an actual match via Fullnelson, to me, it definitely gives you some bragging rights in terms of WWE BJJ.
Sure.
But I would like to ask, when you say you didn't expect that much attention, why? Like, how did that not seem interesting to you?
No, I mean, for sure it was interesting. So it's funny because, I'm not the first person to do that, obviously. Anthony Burchak has done, he calls it a backpack. I know Ricky Lule has hit it as well. But it's something I work on quite a bit because it comes up way more often than you think, especially the way that most people defend RNCs, right? So, whenever I'm training, for me, it's fun to try to experiment with new things. And again, Fullnelson isn't really a new thing, but coming from wrestling, where a Fullnelson's illegal, being able to do it in jiu-jitsu, it's like, oh shit. I mean, yeah, it's illegal for a reason because it sucks and it's super painful. So being able to do it in jiu-jitsu is definitely super exciting. And you can typically start it with just a power half, and then a lot of times you might get the tap just from the power half if you get the wrist behind the head, which is what I was trying to do first. But then what that forces the other person is just reach back with their other hand, and then as soon as they reach back, you just take the second arm. And so that's kind of what happened. And I got a lot of attention. It was definitely it's a shit position to be put in for sure.
I would ask this because I have this issue every once in a while. Like, there are moves that are pro wrestling moves that I don't do to people because I want them to still be my training partners. And to be honest, the Fullnelson has always been dicey to me because sometimes I see that opening in, say, Turtle or something, and I go, I can do a half Nelson, right? Like, that's okay. Right, as long as I don't clasp the two arms together. And then I realize, I go, wait, is that an actual wrestling rule? Am I just being too nice to this person? So I tend to go through that. But when you actually are competing and everybody says, to hell with everything, you're trying to win, that's what you're doing. That's what I saw from you out there. And I said, oh, this very nice person has embraced his inner heel and is 100% putting that pressure that just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, so I mean, I do it in training too. But there's a threshold of the intensity at which you do it at in training, and also even in competition. Like, that's a move that, I don't know, like I purposefully wouldn't crank it 100%, right? Like once you have it locked in, it's kind of there. So, I just kind of bridge into it slowly and just give them a chance to tap, because that could be, that's a bad things can go wrong with that if you do it incorrectly, or with malintent,
Yeah.
I should say. So,
Yeah, and I would say this, that it was kind of nice to see you get a win with it, and I would also put over the body triangle that tends to go with it, because it's
yeah,
like that no man's land of you're really not getting out of it, you're not going anywhere else, and that combined with the pressure, like a lot of people may not understand what that position is and really get there and know that that's a finisher to the point where it can render you incapable of training and fuck you up a whole bunch.
yeah, for sure. It's a move that's extremely painful. And it's funny, Derek, right? Derek Rayfield.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love Derek, and we always have this like running joke, because he's so flexible. So I was trying to bet him, $200 that he wouldn't be able to get out of a Fullnelson. So we've yet to determine kind of what happens with that.
Why would you bet $200 on that? That seems like a really stupid thing to bet on.
I don't know, just why not?
Because
Because
you
I
like
don't I don't
$200.
actually think he can. I don't think a lot of people could take that sort of pressure. Except he was put in a Fullnelson in that CJJ match, and he got out of it. He took that Fullnelson.
Did you consider that when you made the bet with him?
I did.
Then why did you make the $200 bet?
Well, because he didn't take it. It was fine. It was
Oh,
it
he
was more
didn't
like
take. Oh, okay.
no. It was more like, let's bet on this as like a joke, right? I mean, Derek's, he's a great dude. He's a funny guy. We're always trying to bust each other's balls way more than you are. So comes at me from all angles.
Well, I definitely saw him go over to you in, I guess, the little end bit of the match that they put up on Submission Only series.
Yeah.
And, I saw him giving you some mess, and I felt pretty good. I was like, all right, that's why we're kindred spirits. I like Derek for that. But I also
Yeah.
had to notice one thing, and I'll bring this up a little bit later as well, I guess. But Andrew Alexander, I guess, became like a de facto interviewer. And I realized, like, oh my God, how shit is he at my job? Because he's just sitting there, arms folded, being like, yes, that was crazy, man. Wow. Like you were really in that thing, and like things got wild, man. And I go, oh my God, this just makes me feel so much better about the job that I do, because I see somebody like him basically turning into Mike Ditka and being like, it's pretty good, man. I like the way you.
No, give him a
crank the thing."
break. He was coaching all day. Give him a break. He wasn't
So
expecting
what?
to be doing an interview, after the match.
Yeah, okay. Now we're gonna make special concessions for other people. Interviews, come on, Ref. They're hard. They're hard business. Give him some credit. Man does not deserve any credit. But I would say this: I was entertained. I was glad that that happened for you. So now we go into the final match.
Sure.
Who were you going against in the final, and what was that experience like?
It was against Isaac, somebody I've trained with before. So, at that point, yeah, I mean, it was more like, two people that are familiar with each other's games. So, and he's super tough, durable guy. So it was, my timing felt kind of off, and it was just more at that point, not really I wasn't really giving up positions, and we were kind of stuck in full guard for a bit, and which, it wasn't particularly entertaining. And yeah, we ended up going into overtime. Then in that OT, I mean, again, I was on the back, and finished fairly quickly. And then, at that point, I think he had maybe like 20 seconds or something to finish me. And that was kind of that, obviously. But, it was a good match. Not really, it wasn't as exciting of a match as I would have hoped. We started out, the way that my day started, fast, exciting, hard. And then sort of like towards the end of the day was a little bit less exciting for me. So I'm not really satisfied with wins in OT. But a win's a win, and working on getting my timing back after so long from competition. So just as kind of a stepping stone, for the next set of events that are coming up, getting everything kind of more smooth, rounding out the game, and focusing on, just getting better. So.
Okay, so I have to ask this because
Yeah.
it occurred to me, and I don't know what the
Mhm.
deal is. I don't know if there was supposed to be a submission of the night, but I mean, you had a pretty good full Nelson. There was also a
Sure.
twister that happened. If
Uh-huh.
you were to make the case, given the fact that I don't know if there is a submission of the night, but if there
There
was
wasn't, no.
one, would you make the case, and what would that be as to why maybe if there was a bonus, it should have gone to you?
I don't know. I mean, twisters are pretty sick too.
Wow, this is
Uh,
a terrible game that you are putting
wait,
out there right now. I literally gave
wait,
you an opportunity to
wait. I'm
put
gonna
yourself
explain.
over. Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna explain. No, I'm gonna explain. So I mean, twisters are sick, right? But you see way more twisters than you see full Nelsons, right? So I think the rarity of putting someone in a full Nelson, and I don't know. Definitely think a full Nelson might be more painful than a twister. But a twister is equally horrible, and I'm like just thinking kind of pain wise. Um, but you do see them more often, right? Maybe not in like MMA, but you see them more often in jiu-jitsu competitions. So I don't know. That's kind of a close call. I would give it to the full Nelson though.
Okay, you also happen to be the guy who did the full Nelson, right? Like that's a weird way to arrive at it. Whoever did the full Nelson should be given the money. Oh, was that me?
Whatever guy did the full Nelson should probably get it.
I'm just glad that you are putting it out there. Let me just say this, okay? Here's the one thing. If I were helping you, and I'm not, but if I were helping you make the
Right.
case, this is what I would say. Obviously, getting a twister is playing to the crowd. This is a 10p friendly audience.
Of course.
This is like an audience member yelling out for Freebird. That's the equivalent of twister. This was giving you something different you didn't get. And I'm just saying, if you guys got there. Now, what I would say to you is, this is where the professional wrestling comes in to help you. And I thought you were educated, but clearly you're not. The best way to do this, it's also known as a master lock. Some people don't know. When you clasp them together like this, you got to work on the cell, man. You got to like ragdoll them a little bit to really get
to really get the effect.
And I think that would have, if there was a prize, gotten you submission of the night. And I really looked at you and I said, you know what? He just screwed himself out of the showmanship of this.
Yeah. I should have made faces too, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's a two-way street. Like, you can't just do a move
Right.
that it looks like you're not trying hard, because then it doesn't look like there's any anticipation,
Yeah.
no climax that you're building to for the match.
I should have looked at you and pointed at you, and then after I did the full Nelson, picked up a chair and hit you with it.
You know, I mean, I was prepared for it. And a couple times, I kind of like...
No, but I mean for real, hit you with it.
That's fine. I've seen the way you throw. You're just very good at jiu-jitsu. Thank God other things aren't that great. I'm not going to say you don't have good form, but I've definitely seen you throw something and I go, that's not a good throw. All right. It's good to know. I would tell you this, though. When I am around people like you, I am very much on high alert because I feel like these are the rules I also subscribe to.
Right.
So I'm just kind of like, if I hit him, then I would be playing the game the way you're supposed to. So I guess by default, if you hit me, I would have to be like, damn, I respect that. And I'm really angry that he did that.
Right.
Because even as you left and I said hello and goodbye to you, I was literally starting in mode to attack you and just letting you know as you walk away, I just go, just to remind you I could have killed you. Anyway, see you later, man. We'll do an interview.
I also tripped on my way out, which is also great.
I do remember that.
I was walking. It was like a sideways crab walk, and then I ended up hitting I think I had to hit a chair, like the edge of like some fucking thing, and almost like face plant. And I was like, well, that's an awkward way to leave here.
It's a great thing to watch whenever the person who wins by savagery in a competition takes himself out via Sandra.
Do you imagine that shit? I like trip and tear my ACL or some weird ridiculous thing, and I'm out for like a year. That would suck.
Hey, listen, if there was any year to go out, it would probably be okay to do that now, and you'd be fine.
Well, no, because we're right at 2021, so I'm hoping that this coming year is drastically different than this year.
Fair. Let's go back though. I do want to ask. You were also doing the EBI over time. So what was that experience like? I know that you got put into this situation. Again, it's kind of similar where I'm sure Eddie probably wanted to feature you on it, but that at the very least you call it a slam dunk competition. I called it a game show. And
yeah, that too.
I'm not against that because I think that we do need things to kind of break up the monotony of how boring things can get. At the very least, I said, oh, okay, this seems game. And you were one of the first guinea pigs for that. So how'd that come together?
I mean, it was, I mean, I want to say it was fun, but I lost. So that wasn't that fun. But I mean, the idea behind it was fun. I think, it was a very different kind of event. It was very strange, right? Because like everybody's like the guards were way lower. Like the night before we're like literally training, like there's like, training, shooting the shit, like, with the competitors. And it's just kind of, it felt very different than other events where like, the tensions are a little bit hotter. Yeah, I think everybody was just like, oh, it was like the middle, it's like the smack middle of the lockdown. So everybody was just kind of like, well, we're doing this. And it'll be interesting. I mean, nobody really knew what to expect, right? It was like, there's no regulation. Yeah, here's an arm or here's a neck and go see what happens. So yeah, it was a little bit different to say the least, right? Because you remove all the regulation out of it and you just go straight to overtime. So I was calling it a slam dunk contest, as I thought that's kind of what it felt like. It's like, okay, we get to try some shit and then see what happens. It didn't work for me that day. So, but other than that, it was pretty fun. Hanging out with everybody and competing. But it was definitely very different, I feel like, than other competitions.
Was it different because of COVID and the lack of other opportunities, or was it different because it was that weird format?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes on both of those things, right? Like it was a little bit weird because obviously it was during COVID, but more so I think it was the format was also just different, right? Nobody had tried that kind of event on its own before. And everybody who was at that event, is very familiar with EBIOT. So it was just different. Like I don't know how to really describe it other than like I mean my guard was definitely way lower. I know some of the other guys everybody was way more chatty, way more friendly, way more like just kind of bullshitting, and it was nice. I mean, it was just a very kind of fun, friendly environment that I guess I'm speaking for myself and the people that I interacted with, but it just felt different. The format was different. The warming up routine was like different. You're not even going into like a regulation thing. So you're just kind of like getting warmed up slightly different because you're just going straight into overtime. So yeah, it was definitely different.
Okay. And I did hear a little bit about the training that happened. So that I did know, I was like, that's unlike any other real EBI sort of nonsense that we've seen, because most people don't seem to find themselves training together for other EBIs or combat jiu-jitsu scenarios.
Right.
If it is done, it's usually done in a very small sort of format, or people don't really hear about it. But in this particular case, you had people who were kind of like, oh yeah, we just freely all like got together and just kind of had like our own mini open mat that we just kind of made shift right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Well, again, that's why it was so unique to me. And I said, at the very least, considering how wacky and wild the whole year has been, I felt like that was good for the competitors.
Absolutely.
Having said that, what did it feel like, and what did it mean like to you to get back to competition? Because you're normally a guy who's involved in, say, the UWW element,
Sure.
going to compete on an international scale. I know that sometimes you've got these two, both in Ghee and no Ghee, sort of a thing that you like to defend on an international circuit. So what did it feel like to be away from that?
Yeah, so this year, obviously, because of COVID, the whole UWW sort of calendar was changed. So there was no trials, there was nothing. There was Pan Am's, nothing, and then Worlds. There was like up until I think in like late October, they were like, okay, well, we'll send Worlds are still going to happen in December. It was going to be in Serbia, and then I was like, okay, I'm fucking pumped, let's go. And then the committee voted to not send a U.S. team because of COVID, and then the whole event got shut down anyway, like shortly after. So that was strange because, I based up my whole year, it kind of leads up to the end of that year, or the end of the calendar year. We usually at that time between September or December, I'm some part of, Eastern Europe or, Kazakhstan or Azerbaijan, competing out there. And so for this year, it kind of changed everything because that wasn't really the plan. And, there's Nogi Worlds isn't happening. None of the big events are happening. Luckily, like combat jiu-jitsu is still happening. I think there's some fight to wins that are still happening. So, I mean, there are some events still, but for me personally, not having, building up to the end of the year and sort of like getting ready for those big events was definitely different. So being able to go out and compete this literal weekend and the past weekend, was definitely like a good kind of change in direction moving, towards 2021 and looking to kind of keep building on that momentum, because the competition timing is certainly something you got to hone in on. So.
Word. All right. Well, I know that whenever I'm kind of checking out what's happening on the scene, there are some things that'll make me laugh or some things that I'll kind of say, all right, these goons are being pretty stupid. But this was something that did catch my eyes. So when I did see that you guys were at the EBIOT, I did see this photo that manifested, and I literally looked, and I think the caption you put on it was, we had to do this. And I always think to myself, no, you didn't. You did not have to do this. So how does a photo like this, as stupid as it is, come together?
So I don't remember exactly how this started, but it was like Ethan kept posting shirtless photos somewhere of him flexing. And I was like, you know what, man, like, like at that point, it was like, let's just have a flex off. And and Plaster obviously jumped on that immediately and captured this Dylan Dutch, predator moment kind of thing. That was a good I think this was right after we were training the night before the event. And it was just one of those funny, COVID, let's do something funny kind of thing. I think that's where that went.
So I guess
I don't remember exactly how it started. Yeah.
Who initiated this? Because is it Ethan or is it you? Because I look at this and
the picture, I think Plaster might have initiated it. I don't actually remember, to be honest. I have to be 100% honest. I don't remember. I know that I initiated the flex off. Like I said, I challenged him to a flex off at some point. And I think it was like right at this event and like right as leading up to the event. And I think this is like how it went down.
Okay.
He's obviously bigger. So yeah.
Did you feel okay with that? It sounds like you have issues with it.
No, I feel fine with it.
Your voice is just going up an octave.
I wasn't expecting this picture to pop up though. That's definitely caught me off guard.
I mean, here's the dumb part. I have other photos that I can definitely ask you about because
no, you shouldn't.
I will tell you this, and I won't. When I was looking through different things to comment on, I have moments where I take when I was doing what I called the research phase of what to say about you, and I know I said I didn't do any research, but I definitely looked for material, and it's unfortunate that I really can't put this on the live broadcast for when I'm doing the commentary about you. But when I do have this moment and I'm thinking of dubious things to say about you, I'm like, well, what's a good joke to do about him here? What's something funny to say? I felt like I said this joke and it didn't land, but now that I have the opportunity to redo it again, the joke that I said was, oh, this is Luis Quinones. He also does this, and he also has a red fucking Ghee. Why?
Oh yeah.
Do you have a
that
red
Ghee's awesome? So that Ghee, this kind of comes from so we were this was I think when we were in Kazakhstan. We exchanged. I have a lot of gear from the international competitions. We exchanged gear with the competitors as a sort of like sign of respect, right? This is one of the red Russian Ghee. So the reason it's red is because for UWW, when you're competing, it's either you have to have a red rash guard and a blue rash guard, right, for the red or blue corner. And that'll alternate based on where you are in the bracket. But the same thing goes for gis. So blue gi and a red gi, and they're out there is fairly standard to have red gis. Obviously, it's a lot rarer in the U.S. But this is one of the red Russian gis that I traded one of my competitors, one of my gis for that.
Now, let's be honest here. Did you get the upside or did they get the upside? Because I don't know what the exchange rate was in terms of geese. And the other supporting question is here, you're a guy that's kind of like, yeah, I do this stupid thing every once in a while. But, like, you don't profess to be like, I'm in love with the gi. You go, yeah, I guess I'm doing it. So, who
I
got the
I
upside?
like the gi.
Yeah,
I
it's still.
do. I do.
What
I
should
mean,
I
I do.
say about this?
It's different. It's again, right? It's one of those. It's different. Like clearly you're dealing with grips. You're dealing with a different kind of game. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you need again, right? We're a no-gi school mainly, right? But Eddie came from John Jocks. Obviously, that's a John Jock trains in the gi. Eddie trained in the gi before. We just don't. 10th Planet doesn't train in the gi normally. So. Doesn't mean that I don't enjoy training in the gi. And it presents its own challenges and its own sort of like unique things that are fun to work on, right? So and plus, I don't know. There's something kind of cool about the gi. When you put the gi on, you feel like you're putting on like a battle suit, right? And you tie the belt and you're like ready to go. I don't know. There's something kind of cool about that.
Yeah,
We've talked
no,
about this before. Yeah.
we have. However, I let you get by the last time we did it because we had trained that day, and I didn't want to sell you out too hard. But when we trained, there was definitely a moment where you're like, "And I'm done with this ski." And I was like, "I don't really want to bury you because you were doing a nice thing of like, I loved the gi is so much fun, and this is great." And
It
then all of a sudden you were
is.
just like, oh, I'm done with this."
Well, I mean, it is for an extended or for like a burst of time, and then you're like, okay, now I'm done with this for a week or something or however long. But it has its time.
As somebody who trains both on a regular basis, when I hear somebody be like, I mean, I did it once this week, that's enough, right? It's like, bro,
Well,
no.
clearly, I mean, it's very obvious where my focus is, right? And it's not in
Yeah.
the gi, but it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy changing the pattern of training on a the weekly basis where like I'll insert a gi day in there just because it's something different to work on.
I mean, again, I hear what you're saying, but it's very funny to me because I always feel like whenever I interview a 10th Planet person, they almost have a set of political talking points that they go down and they all go like, well, of course, you know, Eddie trained with John Jock in the gi, and clearly that is indicative of our love of all things. Is that what I
Jiu
heard?
Jitsu
Gi.
related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Well, that's our credibility there. And I'm like, bro, I see Eddie go over to Jean Jacques once in a blue moon. I do not believe that story. Like, you guys almost do it for the photo op just to be able to be like, and we're good for another year, right?
Oh, so
That'll
you think my last photo in the gi with those two guys is definitely just my yearly picture?
just saying. I mean, I had your yearly picture last year when we interviewed you, so I realized I
Yeah,
go, oh,
true.
he's good for a year. So I haven't
At
seen too
least a
many other
year.
photos of that.
At least a year.
It's kind of the equivalent of you going to renew your driver's license and you go,
Hmm.
and here it is, with that like one pose that people do in the gi, and then they go from there.
Right.
So here's the other thing. If you mentioned don't bring up other photos, I obviously will. So I guess the third photo I had, and I guess I'll call this the last one, is I don't
Uh-huh.
know what's funnier about this particular one, but please describe what people are seeing in this.
Oh man. So that was my handlebar mustache phase. I think that was like maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 3 years ago. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I was at a party with Chuck Liddell, and that was a whole lot of fun. I've never met him in person until that day, so I was very excited to meet him. I mean, obviously, he's a legend. Yeah, I mean, that was just the mustache and the Iceman. I was like, we gotta get a picture together,
How
and
are
that was
you
that.
not commentating on the scarf? Let's take a moment to address this ginormous, almost Lenny Kravitz inspired scarf that you're wearing here.
Yeah. Uh, not sure. I don't know what to say about that. I don't remember what time of the year that was, but I'm assuming I was cold, judging by the scarf.
This is how I can tell you kids at a younger and a smaller weight division are always like, it's cold. It's like, because you have no body fat, you dummies. That's what happens when you guys fight at 145. You sit there and
Yeah, us small guys.
I look at that photo and I just think, all right, the mustache,
Yeah,
it gets some legitness, despite the fact that it gets more into hipster territory. And then I
yeah,
thought about not giving you shit, and then all of a sudden I go, is that a Bjork fucking t-shirt on as well?
that is, yeah.
And it just
So that
tells
that
me,
shirt that shirt I've had probably it was like 2008. So I mean, yeah, a little bit more than 12 years. I was in the UK and found that shirt, and then for whatever reason, just has this like weird sentimental value to me. So yeah,
fair
a
enough.
Bjork shirt with that scarf and that mustache. I mean, yeah, I could see
And
where that I could
holding
see the direction
probably
that's going.
some more wine there when you're like, I don't really drink all that
Right.
much, Raf. I don't know. Well, okay, but I was with Chuck Liddell, and that was after we did some cocaine, and it was fine, man. So no big deal.
No.
Just kidding. I don't know that for sure for Chuck, but I mean, you, it's likely story. What I would say is this. So, you have all these things go on. What
Yeah.
was the COVID experience for you? Because I know a lot of different people had to adapt to
Sure.
training. So, for you, you get this big high where you compete,
Hmm.
and then obviously things start to shut down. So, how were you able
Sure.
to adjust, and what were you doing when most people had that happening to them as well?
Yeah. So kind of when the whole thing started, I ended up like packing up and going to stay at my friend's place in Joshua Tree. Just trying to get out of because I live in downtown. So for me, downtown was like getting super weird, and got out of downtown as soon as possible, basically, and was up in Joshua Tree doing. I mean, it was very odd. Like I was doing, carrying rocks up in the desert, like doing these like crazy, workouts in the desert, trying to stay in shape and keep my mind off of whatever the hell was going on in the rest of the world. So was there for a while, and then basically just trained when I came back. With my training partners that I was comfortable with, and we just trained as much as we could essentially. But obviously it's a bit tough for everybody. It was tougher at that time, but things getting kind of locked down again is super shitty. So
All right. Well, I was just curious as to what people were doing and how they will adjust to it. I mean, was the change of scenery, did that allow you to help your mental health? Was it at all ever affected by having less jujitsu in your life?
I mean, it definitely felt weird. Going from training once, twice, a couple of times a day, sometimes to 0 times a day, was very odd. But replacing that, it was kind of interesting because my body got to heal a little bit, which was not a bad thing. Working on some strength and conditioning, and just taking a little bit less abuse on the joints, I guess, was kind of good for a while. But it definitely felt weird to not be choking somebody or practicing on the mats. That was definitely like an odd kind of period to get used to after so long of just kind of consistently doing that same thing. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but I think you make do with what you got, and you know if you're dedicated, you can always find a way to train somehow. Whether it's even if it's not on the mat, you can do something that will help you improve in the long run. So you just gotta stay diligent about it.
I think you bring up something here that I think is the least favorite of my things that you end up doing, which is that every time I see you preparing for like a tournament, or I know
Mhm.
something's coming up for you, you always do what looks like the Batman CrossFit like montage scene, and I'm always like, fuck off, dude. Like, go learn how to do another rear naked choke. I don't need to see you doing like 12 different sledgehammer throws. This tire doesn't need to go up a hill. These are all stupid things that you're doing. And yet at the same point, I guess it pays off because you are competitively successful. But again, with all due respect, kindly fuck off.
Thanks. I mean, anything that I can do to piss you off is always like, usually most of the time when I do something, I'm like, is this going to make Raph mad?
Yeah.
And if it is, I will continue to do it.
Because in
So,
my view, all of the strength and conditioning stuff is cheating. So anytime I
oh,
see that, I think to myself, this is not jujitsu. You're clearly going to win other stuff. And as a result, your jujitsu happens to get better steroids. But I
right.
would say to you, that's fine. Go lift the tires where you need to
Sure.
conditionally to make yourself, feel better.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying other, I mean, I'm sure you're going to find some way to spin this in a different direction. But I've been so for I think the last like month and a half, maybe 2 months, I've actually started doing Pilates, believe it or not. Or not Pilates, like it's a different version of Pilates that I've found to be kind of interesting. Like with my flexibility and just some like it's supposed to work, like the slow twitch muscles and a muscle endurance, and it kind of again, right? It like we talked about this before, but anything to sort of like change the pattern that you continuously repeat of training. The Pilates thing was kind of interesting. I've started enjoying it. I've noticed some improvements just in certain areas of just my body physically. Um, so that's, I've replaced some of the tire lifting and some of those things with some Pilates and a couple of other sort of like more muscle endurance and sort of body weight type of exercises that I think are fairly interesting. So I'm kind of experimenting with that at the moment.
Thank God. I would say this though, because you when you are doing these things, you probably in other years that are not COVID related would have definitely gotten some jazzercise jokes at your expense. But I
Absolutely.
think the sensitivities and everybody just trying to do what they can to get by is me giving a lot of people a lot of leeway of, I won't joke about that. I've noticed that even when I'm doing memes, I look down and I go, do I really want to pick on this person today? Like, this is just a shitty time for everybody. Unless I've got a really good take, I want it to
Right.
be fun. And, we have our targets, we have our people we like to pick on. And I go,
Sure.
they know we're good with them, or they've got a
Right.
thick enough skin that they can probably get through this. But, if you're coming here being like, Raph, I'm
No,
doing
Pilates,
interpretive
man.
dance now, I'd be like, man, I wish you would have told me that back in
Yeah.
2014, but yeah, I'll let it
Yeah.
pass. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. It's 2020, man. Try whatever. Whatever makes you happy. For me, it was like, let's try something new. And so far so good. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not a long-term thing, but just trying to experiment with some stuff. Because 2020, man, why not?
Do you ever have any sort of, I haven't asked this of anybody yet, but I guess I can ask it of you. Is there ever any resentment over 2020 and what it took away as a competitor? And if so, do you mind sharing what that is?
Um, no, because I mean, putting it in context, right? Like some people are exponentially worse off, right? And at the end of the day, like I wasn't able to compete as much, but that's like nothing relative to what other people are going through. And like, I don't have kids. It's not like the things that are getting taken away from me are or were getting taken away from me are nothing in comparison to like what some other people are dealing with. So um I don't really have any resentment towards that. I mean, it's just you got to make do with the situation that you have, and whatever that is. As long as you kind of keep pushing through it and stay positive, like things will get better, right? I mean, again, we're competing again. Things are getting a little bit. Well, I was going to say a little more relaxed, but obviously that's not really the case anymore. But a lot of us are at the point where it's like, well, whatever. uh, yeah, literally whatever. And so no, I don't particularly have any resentment towards that, just because I try to put it in context of the bigger picture, and I think that's important to kind of bring perspective into it.
It's a nice, mature response there, sir. Wasn't expecting it from you, but I'm glad that you have some sort of clarity because we've seen so many people when they do get to compete, and I think you do recognize you've been one of the lucky few people who have gotten to compete, all things
Sure.
considered, and especially on a big platform. I've seen a lot of people take it a lot of different ways. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do is celebrate, like, hey, listen, you may not be competing, but let's be happy for these people who are on internet television competing, because
Sure.
they're getting to do what you want to do. And the more opportunities we give them, the more it's going to start to open up, and the more smaller
Sure.
tournaments. So everybody plays a part in that sort of a thing. I think it's just hard to harbor that bitterness.
No,
To
absolutely.
affecting people in a much worse way than they're already affected as is.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's the approach, right? Like, just, you got to have perspective, I guess, about the big picture, and, things will get better. I mean, they can only really get better, I guess. But
Don't put that on us. We don't need that in 2021. This is not the tape that I want to go back to. And it's like, it's
yeah,
on
well,
him this year.
things can get better, and hopefully will get better,
There
right?
we go.
And I think we'll just keep it at that, right?
Listen, that's about all we can promise here, people, is just we're peddling hope at this point and just being like, yeah,
Definitely.
Maybe it's going to work out. 2021 is now the new slogan that we're telling people, is like,
Yeah.
it couldn't be as bad, right? So that seems to be the general consensus here. So obviously you got a little something over here in the eye. I have the inside track to know that something took place. So I guess what I would ask you is, what can people potentially look forward to seeing sometime in the near future, sir?
Yeah. So, at an undisclosed location, we had a little fun event, that will be, I think, will be public at some point. We'll kind of keep it at that. It was a team event. A lot of fun. Just, I mean, yeah, it's a little. I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't keep reopening, because I know those things are quite a pain. I had one in my other eye that just kept popping open. But yeah, just a little accidental headbutt. Nothing major, but yeah, I mean, we'll just keep it at that. Yeah, I mean, more events are popping up, so that's good. So yeah, that's about all I'll say to that right now.
I think that keeps you legally in the clear. So you're making sure. However, I am making a mental note. Accidental headbutt. Make it look clean when rolling with Luis. All right, there we go. We'll make sure that we bust that open a couple times next time I'm rolling with you.
Just
Luis,
poke at it.
I mean, I'm not gonna poke at it. I'm gonna do that thing. I saw Davis Figueroa yesterday when he was framing. He
Yeah.
would pop in one of those elbows, and all I could think of was, I was like, "Damn, bro, you know what? I need that as a good backup whenever I'm rolling with bony people, because when you get them in side control and they start trying to frame and it's just bones." And then you think about it, you're like, why am I doing any of this to them? It's hurting me because their own body is stupid.
Yep.
So I usually have those moments. So I started thinking about that. And now that I think about it, I go, that might be a good sort of attack here for the kid. If he gets to a good position, I'll be able to equalize things. Now I got a little target to hit. So I'm going to be like, no, Luis, take side control. It's fine. No reason.
I appreciate the you looking out for my better interest there.
I'll tell you this much, man. It's not like I'm a super good grappler, but I tell this to people all the time when I make the joke and I go, no, I'm clearly the Batman of the group. And they go, Batman? Why are you the Batman? I go, listen, it's like I'm rolling with Wonder Woman and Superman, all these meta humans. All I've got is a job, which is jiu-jitsu rich, and a backup case of files on people being like, Batman, my weakness is parents. Superman, kryptonite. Wonder Woman, apparently self-doubt, which is kind of sexist, by the way. But okay, I guess that's her weakness. So whenever I know these things on my own circle of people, I'm always like, Luis, very, very vulnerable to compliments. Will be totally caught off guard. So,
Perfect.
The minute he sees me being like, wow, it's a really nice guard pass. Thanks, Raph.
Like, where's the but what?
Hey man, and you know what? When they need to manifest themselves. They help me in some dark spots to get out of really bad spots that most people would probably submit me at, but it usually buys me some time.
I believe you.
Yeah. Anyway, Luis, we should do this. Obviously, people can go watch the submission only series that's now on YouTube. They can also catch you at a time in the near future of an event that may or may not have taken place somewhere. That's
right.
Pretty legally non-binding. But why don't you tell the people where they can find you, and maybe give us a shout out to the sponsors who helped you get to where you needed to be last week, sir?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, Luis Quinones 10P. Huge thanks to, one, Cruise Combat, the best gear in the game. I say it all the time. Go give them a shout out or check out their gear. And the other one is Olympic Stretch. I've been starting to work with them just to get my body sort of back. Well, I want to say get back together, but it's more like keeping it together, I guess, is the way that what we'll stick with. Trying new things to help me heal and sort of work on a bit more of my flexibility. So give them a follow. Of course, everybody that I train with, everybody knows who they are. Eddie, of course. And I mean, I want to say you, but not really.
I think you are obligated to. You are on my show, and I did spend time giving you, a voice, a venue.
Yeah, you did. So thank you for that. And I mean, hopefully, in 2021, you'll see a lot more of me in a lot of different events. So we'll see how, fingers crossed, we'll see how that goes. But I hope everybody has a great holiday, and fingers crossed.
Wow. What a great send off we're having here. You just got little Bob Cratchit's kid coming in and be like, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yep.
I could do it in the Keith voice.
Oh, please do.
I can't. I don't know how to do the Keith voice. I can't do it. You can, though.
I can easily do that. But the difference is, and again, I didn't have this photo prepped. I just know the fact that you're like, I can do the Keith voice. And I was like, well, you know what would be great is the fact that your last photo that you put up is you being besties with him right over here. So the last thing you need is for you to be like, yeah, Keith is an amazing kid. He's giving away all the tricks. Also, oh man, this is, I don't really like that when Mr. Luis makes fun of me. That's not cool, man.
I'm not making fun of Keith. No, I mean,
like you were
he was, coaching against me, so definitely giving away some of my tricks. But it's all in good love. No, I love Keith, and he knows that. He's a great guy. So you're the one that's gonna make fun of him. I'm just gonna sit here.
Anything of the sort. I just literally voiced what you were putting out there. I matched your energy, and I said, okay, well, I'll be the one to put a name to it. That's fine. Plus, Keith knows where to find me, so it's not that difficult of something. And speaking of which, we should probably address this now, because this is the little, they put like the trailer for the next Marvel movie at the end of this one. I feel like for people who've made it this far in the interview, if they make it all the way here, they should know this, which is that nothing was more enjoyable to both myself and Luis, in which people were really pissed at my comments about you.
Oh, yeah,
I had certain people who were messaging during the live thing being like, when they go, Luis is so good. And I go, he's okay. Like, whoa. He is a
son of a
person that I know, and I want to put. I'm the internet speaking on his behalf.
Yeah.
I go, oh my God, Jesus Christ! I'm like, I'm not even really roasting him yet.
Yeah, it's funny. I ended up, we I'm not gonna say who, but I ended up messaging somebody, and I was like, because they were getting excited about some of Rap's commentary, and I was like, whoa, chill, bro. Like, relax. We're friends. It's a joke. Just relax a little bit. It's not a big deal. But I mean, I get it. Taken out of context. Sometimes they're gonna come after you, man.
I mean, listen, dude. At this point, it's always fun for me to find new people that get like socially justice warriored out, and they're like, oh my God, oh, not on my watch. well, sir, and they bring out their key van, and they're just like, well, let me tell you what I think about it. And it's like, dude, enjoy the ride. We're all here.
Yeah.
I clearly spent a better half of, I want to say, 40 minutes telling people to donate to give you money on a broadcast. I think you can make the jump in association that maybe, just maybe, I might have met this guy. And so I think one of the little tell-alls that I was trying to do that was like a little wink to the audience was, I go, hey, just so you know, I have interviewed him before, which is usually my way of saying I am vaguely familiar with him. So maybe, just maybe, you're late to the party. And yet still then people being like, I don't even know if he wants to do the interview. I was like, we'll see about that. I'm pretty sure if I go up to him, he's going to be really, really pressed with a lot of people who are begging him down and being like, hey, man, let's chat.
Yeah. I think it's funny when things get taken out of context. So if you don't know the backstory, you know, I mean, again, right, the internet comments is usually where the worst inhumanity is brought out. So you can't really expect any less from anybody.
It's a living, breathing document now at this point. So now, you know, it used to be nameless people, and now it's like you know the person, and you just go like, oh man, these poor kids, I hope they're in on the joke. So anyway, if you made it this far, yes, I know him, and I dislike him as a person, but I still bring him on here. So just so that we're clear as to where all of that stands. And yes, you may have even spotted us at a similar place training or seeing each other here or there. And I'm sure
where's that picture? You don't show that picture.
That was the photo that I used as the icon for
the other one. Did. You're right.
Yeah, I proved to people. And the thing is, I was also proving to people that you can be spotted in a Ghee. So before I knew that you were using me as your DMV Ghee license, I was at least trying to tell people, like, he won. And it's legit. I rolled with him. I can vouch. He knows a spider guard. Not all of them, but like one.
Just one. Just the literal one.
The fact that when we were rolling that day, you did a little bit of, let's say, I think it was spider guard. And you're like, fuck this, my back. I'm not doing this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, I just go, sure. You know what? As long as you're putting up a good effort here, that's good for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Now, please note that the next time that we see that. So for your entertainment, the next time you see possibly me hitting with him a folding chair or something like that, just know that we are not starting any kind of riot that we both didn't
any real beef.
I mean, there might be real beef in there. I'm not so, I never say these things without
any malintended beef.
That's the one. Because I'm like, hey, listen, sometimes when people roast us back, I'm like, yo, I think they may not like us and they just like this format. And I'm okay with that too.
Right.
But hopefully in the future, we will be able to get to train together, maybe do a silly video. I know that people have been asking for that. So I think there may be a WWE BJJ match just yet. And as you mentioned,
there should be.
You're always welcome, to do that sort of stuff. You just never show up for it. So there's that.
One day it'll go down.
All right, Luis, I appreciate your time, my friend. I'm going to close this up. I'll say bye to you off air. But Luis Quinones, your submission-only series winner, and he did an incredible job. And it was a pleasure to commentate your matches, my man.
Thanks, man. Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody. So just to remind you guys, here's how things are going to play on out for the rest of the week. We are going to see you back on Saturday. That's right. We're going to have a new fight companion for the very last UFC event of the year. And then next Sunday, we will be back here for an all-day event. We are doing coverage for the, I believe it is going to be EBI or Combat first. And then there is going to be a Submission Underground. So we're going to bring a nice panel back together to watch that one. It'll be a blast. I hope that you guys join us. It will be epic and fun. Anyway, my name is Rafa Spars. I want to thank you guys for watching today. It has been a pleasure chatting with you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day because it's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats. Eventually.